Hi, I'm Megan. Today I'm going to read you the story of Laura, which is titled like this. My parents chose my sister's dinner instead of my birthday, so I used my savings to buy a country house. I posted the photos, the best gift for myself. They called immediately, "You need to give this house to Sophie." My answer. Well, let's go. So here I am, Laura, 35 years old, and I just went through the messiest divorce you can imagine. Yeah, I know what you're thinking, another woman whining about her ex. But trust me, this story gets way worse before it gets better. I work as a financial director at this big company downtown. Good job, decent money, the whole package. But apparently that doesn't matter to some people. My ex has been cheating on me multiple times with multiple women. When I finally caught him red-handed, I was done. Filed for divorce immediately. My parents completely flipped out when I told them I was divorcing James. "Laura, you're being ridiculous," my mom said over the phone. "He makes most of the money in your family. You live off his income." "Mom, I literally make 6 figures. I'm a financial director. Don't exaggerate, honey. James told us about your little office job." Little office job, I wanted to scream, but this wasn't new. My parents never listened to me about anything. They always thought my younger sister Sophie was the golden child. Growing up, it was obvious who the favorite was. When Sophie was 7 and I was 15, she broke my laptop by spilling juice on it. My parents bought her a new tablet the same day because she felt bad. When I asked about my laptop, Dad said I should have been more careful where I left it. When Sophie got her driver's license, they bought her a brand new Honda. When I got mine 3 years earlier, they gave me Dad's old beaten-up truck that barely started. Sophie got into an okay college with mediocre grades. They threw her a huge party and paid for everything. I got into a better school with a partial scholarship. They said that's nice and told me to figure out the rest of the tuition myself. So yeah, the favoritism wasn't exactly subtle. During the divorce proceedings, I ended up getting our apartment. James got the country house we bought together. It was fair. I'd put more money down on the apartment anyway, even though James always acted like he paid for everything. But my parents lost their minds over this too. "How could you give him a country house?" Mom screamed at me. "We love spending weekends there." James used to invite them over all the time, and they'd sit on the deck drinking wine and talking about how wonderful he was. "Now we can't go to the house anymore," Dad complained. "Thanks a lot, Laura. You could visit me at the apartment instead," I suggested. Mom snorted. "It's not the same. That house has a pool and a garden. Your apartment is just an apartment." For 2 months after the divorce, they didn't invite me to family dinners. Not once. Sophie would post pictures on Instagram of her, Mom, and Dad at their dining room table, all smiling and laughing. The caption would be something like "family dinner night," and I wasn't in any of them. When I finally got invited back, Mom made sure to let me know how disappointed she was in me. "You know, Sophie's been asking questions about your divorce," she said while passing the mashed potatoes. "She's wondering if she should get married at all after seeing what you did." "What I did? You mean what James did? You're setting a bad example for your sister. She's only 27. She doesn't need to see you throwing away a perfectly good marriage." Sophie just sat there smirking. She didn't say anything, but I could tell she was enjoying this. She always enjoyed it when I got in trouble. So here I was, recently divorced, financially stable but emotionally drained, with parents who thought I was some kind of monster for leaving my cheating husband. The whole situation was insane. But you know what? I was starting to feel better about my life. I had my own place, a job I was good at, and friends who actually supported me. The apartment was nice, and for the first time in years, I could decorate it however I wanted without James complaining about everything. The funny thing is, I felt more independent and confident than I had in years. The divorce was painful, sure, but it was also kind of liberating. I could make my own decisions without someone constantly undermining me or cheating behind my back. My friends were great during this whole period. Megan, my college roommate, took me out for drinks every Friday. My work colleagues invited me to their get-togethers, people who actually cared about me and supported my decisions. Some time passed like this. Then my 36th birthday started approaching. I decided to take control and called my parents 2 months in advance. "Mom, I'm having a birthday party at my apartment. Don't plan anything else for that day, okay? Just come to my place." Yeah, we remember," she mumbled and hung up on me. I started preparing for my birthday party right away. I ordered catering from this nice restaurant downtown, called all my close friends, invited the colleagues I actually liked, just the closest ones. I wanted everything planned in advance so there wouldn't be any surprises or last-minute drama. While I was organizing everything, I also called Tom, my realtor friend. He's the guy who helped me and James buy our apartment originally. "Tom, I've got some savings and I'm thinking about buying a country house. With a mortgage, obviously, but I can make a good down payment." "That's awesome, Laura. What are you looking for?" "Something nice, really nice. I want this to be my birthday gift to myself." Tom was excited and said he'd show me some options. A couple weeks later, he sent me listings for several houses. I spent my weekends driving around, checking them all out. The third one I saw was perfect. Beautiful property, great location, exactly what I'd been picturing. We made the deal a week before my birthday. I was so happy I could barely contain myself. The best part? I didn't tell my family anything about it. I wanted to surprise them at my birthday party, so my birthday finally arrived. I was actually excited for once. The catering looked amazing, my apartment was decorated perfectly, and I couldn't wait to tell everyone about my new house. I kept checking my phone for photos of it that Tom had sent me earlier. My friends started showing up around 6. Megan brought wine, my colleagues from work brought flowers, everyone was in a great mood. But by 7:30 there was still no sign of my parents or Sophie. I started getting that familiar knot in my stomach. You know, the one when you're expecting your family to disappoint you but you're still hoping they won't. "Where's your family?" Megan asked, looking around. "They'll be here," I said, but honestly I was starting to worry. By 8 o'clock the party was in full swing, but I couldn't stop checking my phone. I called Mom first, straight to voicemail. Then Dad, same thing, then Sophie, nothing. I started texting them, "Hey, where are you guys? Party started an hour ago." Nothing. "Mom, Dad, Sophie, please call me back," getting worried. Still nothing. Everyone was having a great time, eating the catered food, laughing, but I felt like I was going to throw up. My own family couldn't even be bothered to show up to my birthday party that I'd planned 2 months in advance. Finally, around 9 o'clock, my phone buzzed. A text from Mom, "We have other plans tonight. Sophie is introducing us to her boyfriend at dinner. This is more important than your birthday." I stared at the message for like 5 minutes. I couldn't believe it. They chose Sophie's dinner over my birthday, the birthday I'd specifically told them about 2 months ago. I was shaking when I called Sophie. She actually picked up after a few rings. "What?" she said, sounding annoyed. "Sophie, why did you plan your dinner thing tonight? It's my birthday party." She laughed, actually laughed. "Oh, it just worked out that way, sorry." But I could hear it in her voice, that mocking tone she'd used since we were kids. "You did this intentionally, didn't you? Don't be so dramatic, Laura. Don't cry about it, okay? You'll ruin your makeup." Then she hung up on me. I stood there holding my phone, feeling like someone had punched me in the gut. A minute later, another text came through. This time it was a photo. Sophie, some guy I'd never seen before, and my parents, all sitting at a fancy restaurant table, smiling and raising their glasses like they were celebrating something amazing. I almost lost it right there. I wanted to scream, throw my phone, maybe just lock myself in my bedroom and cry. But I had a house full of people who'd actually shown up for me. I took a deep breath, put my phone away, and went back to my guests. "Everything okay?" my colleague Chris asked. "Yeah, family emergency came up, they can't make it." Nobody pushed for details, which I appreciated. These people actually cared about me enough to be tactful. "Well, their loss," Megan said, raising her glass. "Happy birthday, Laura." Everyone toasted, and I felt a little better. At least some people in my life gave a damn about me. That's when I decided to tell them about my surprise. "Actually, guys, I have some news. I bought a house." Everyone got excited and started asking questions. I pulled out my phone and showed them all the photos Tom had sent me. "Oh my God, Laura, it's gorgeous," Megan said. "This pool is incredible," Chris added. "You have to throw a housewarming party," another friend said. "We'll all be there." For the first time all night, I felt genuinely happy. These people were excited for me. They wanted to celebrate my success instead of making me feel guilty about it. The party went until almost midnight. Everyone helped me clean up, which was sweet. After they all left, I sat on my couch with a glass of wine, thinking about what had happened. My family had deliberately chosen to skip my birthday. Sophie had planned her dinner on my birthday on purpose just to hurt me. And none of them, not Mom, not Dad, not Sophie, had even bothered to wish me happy birthday. But you know what? I had something they didn't know about, something that was going to change everything. I opened Instagram and uploaded the photos of my new country house. I wrote a caption, "The best gift for myself. Love yourself." I knew Mom, Dad, and Sophie all followed me on social media. They'd see this post eventually. I went to bed feeling pretty satisfied. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. Saturday morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing like crazy. Missed calls from Mom, Dad, and Sophie, lots of them. I checked my messages. "Mom, what house is this? Where did you get money for this? Call me immediately." "Dad, Laura, we need to talk. What is going on?" "Sophie, is this real? How did you buy a house? Why didn't you tell us?" I made myself coffee and ignored all of them. For the first time in my life, I had something they wanted to know about, and they could wait for answers just like I'd been waiting for them to treat me like I mattered. Sunday morning, I was sitting at my kitchen table in my pajamas, enjoying my coffee and scrolling through my phone. The apartment was quiet, sunlight streaming through the windows, and for the first time in days, I felt relaxed. Then someone started pounding on my apartment door. Not polite knocking, aggressive, demanding pounding that made my coffee cup rattle against the saucer. I looked through the peephole, and there they were. Mom, Dad, and Sophie, all standing in the hallway looking pissed off. I took a deep breath, smoothed down my hair, and smiled to myself before opening the door. Well, 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 look who decided to visit. They pushed past me into my apartment without waiting for an invitation, their footsteps heavy on my hardwood floors. Mom immediately started looking around. Dad positioned himself in the center of my living room with his hands on his hips. Sophie flopped down on my couch without being asked. "Laura, what the hell is going on?" Dad shouted, his face already turning red the way it did when he was working himself up to a full tantrum. "You bought a house and didn't tell us. That's completely irresponsible behavior." I stayed calm, leaning against my kitchen counter with my arms folded. "I was going to tell you at my birthday party. You know, the one you didn't show up to." For a moment, both my parents looked uncomfortable. Mom glanced at Dad, Dad looked at his shoes, and Sophie suddenly became very interested in examining her manicure. The silence stretched out for maybe 10 seconds before Mom's face hardened again. "You can't afford a house with your salary," she snapped, her voice getting that shrill quality it always had when she was losing an argument. "Where did you get the money? Did you take out some ridiculous loan? Are you in debt up to your eyeballs?" I laughed, actually laughed out loud, throwing my head back. If you people paid any attention to my life, you'd know I make good money as a financial director. But you never listen when I try to tell you anything. Mom's mouth opened and closed like a fish. She clearly had no idea what my actual salary was, despite the fact that I'd tried to explain my job to her dozens of times over the years. That's when Dad said something that made my blood run cold. "You need to give this house to Sophie." I stared at him. "What did you just say?" "You heard me. Sophie needs this house more than you do." I looked at all three of them, thinking they had to be joking. But they weren't. They were dead serious. Mom nodded like this was the most reasonable thing in the world. "We talked about it last night. You already have an apartment. Sophie doesn't have anywhere to live when she gets married." "Married?" I said. Sophie stepped forward with this smug look on her face. "Ryan and I are getting engaged soon. We're having our wedding in 6 months. We need somewhere to live. So you think I should just give you my house?" I said slowly. "It makes sense," Dad said. "You don't need 2 places." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. These people were actually standing in my apartment, demanding that I hand over the house I just bought with my own money to my spoiled little sister. "You're all completely insane," I said. "Get out of my house now." They looked shocked, like they genuinely thought I was going to say, "Sure, Sophie, take my house." "Laura, don't be selfish," Mom started. "Get out," I yelled. I started pushing them toward the door. Dad tried to stand his ground, but I kept pushing. "You people are unbelievable," I said as I shoved them into the hallway. "I don't want to see any of you again." "Laura, you can't just," Sophie started. I slammed the door in their faces and locked it. I could hear them arguing in the hallway for a few minutes, then finally their voices faded away. I thought that would be the end of it. I really did. They'd realize how ridiculous they were being and leave me alone. Wrong again. A few days later, my phone started ringing. Aunt Linda. "Laura, honey, I think you're being a little unfair to Sophie." I hung up. Then Uncle Steve called. "Your mother tells me you won't share your new house with your sister. That doesn't sound like you." I hung up on him too. Then my cousin Katie, "Come on, Laura. Sophie's getting married. Can't you help her out?" More hanging up. I realized Mom had called every relative we had and told them some sob story about how mean I was being to poor little Sophie. The calls kept coming for days. But the worst part was what Sophie did on social media. She posted this photo of herself crying, actual tears streaming down her face, with a caption that said, "When your own sister won't help you because she's jealous that you're getting married and she's divorced." Some people can't stand to see others happy. The comments were brutal. All our relatives and family friends telling Sophie how sorry they were, how they couldn't believe I was being so selfish. Some people I barely knew were calling me horrible names. I didn't respond to any of it. What was the point? 2 weeks after the whole confrontation at my apartment, I decided to throw a housewarming party at my new place. I invited all the same people who'd come to my birthday, my real friends, the colleagues who actually cared about me, and the few relatives who hadn't demanded I give my house away. I spent the week before the party buying furniture and decorating. The house looked amazing. I was actually proud of what I'd accomplished. The party was scheduled for Saturday afternoon. I'd hired the same catering company, bought plenty of drinks, the whole thing. Around 2 o'clock, people started arriving. Everyone was so impressed with the house. They kept telling me how proud they were of me, how I deserved this, how beautiful everything looked. I was having the best time I'd had in months. Then around 4 o'clock, there was a knock at the door. I opened it and there were my parents. "Surprise," Mom said in this fake, cheerful voice. They walked right past me into the house like they'd been invited. "Hello, everyone," Mom announced loudly to my guests. "I'm Laura's mother." My friends looked confused. They knew my parents hadn't come to my birthday. Mom made her way around the room, introducing herself to everyone, acting like the perfect supportive mother. Then she got to the middle of the living room and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I'm so proud of Laura. And I'm sure she's going to let her father and me move into this beautiful house, since we've decided to give our house to Sophie for her wedding." The room went completely silent. I stood there for a moment, processing what she just said, then I smiled. Actually, no, I said just as loudly, you're not moving into my house. Mom's face fell, Laura. We can work this out privately. No, we can't. I walked over and opened the front door. You need to leave now. Dad stepped forward. I'm not going anywhere. This is ridiculous. Then I'm calling the police. I pulled out my phone and started dialing. They left. As they walked to their car, Dad shouted back at me, you're an ungrateful daughter. I closed the door and turned back to my guests who were all staring at me. Sorry about that, everyone. Let's get this party back on track. And we did. My friends rallied around me, told me how proud they were that I'd stood up for myself, and we had an amazing rest of the afternoon. 6 months have passed since that housewarming party disaster, and I haven't spoken to my family once. Not a single word, and honestly, it's been the most peaceful 6 months of my adult life. I know Sophie got married because I saw the photos on social media. Looked like a nice wedding. Expensive, too. I wasn't invited, obviously. Not that I would have gone anyway. I deleted all their social media accounts from my friends list after that, so I don't have to see their fake happy family posts anymore. From what I heard through the grapevine, because people love to gossip, Sophie and her husband Ryan are renting some apartment across town. Apparently it's not very nice. My cousin Katie mentioned it when she called to try to guilt-trip me again about 2 months ago. Sophie and Ryan are living in this tiny one-bedroom place, she said. If you just let them use your country house, I hung up on her mid-sentence. I've gotten really good at hanging up on people. My parents are still living in their old house. The same house they were supposed to give to Sophie, apparently.